Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. This is Ginger Bandine. I'm the Director of Clinical Data and Analytics at Pinnacle Health Informatics. And today we are joined by Gary Clark, who's going to start by introducing himself and then talk to us a little bit about quality assurance report coding. Gary?
Thanks, Ginger. For those of you that don't know me, I am the senior software engineer here for Pinnacle, and do most of the code development in the background. And thought, as we were talking about webinar subjects, we thought that, maybe kind of doing some basic SQL query writing would be good. And a great place to start is with quality assurance reporting. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, so what is a QA report? What are we talking about there? Some of the kinds of things that what I'm talking about, it would be even as simple as an active client list. Maybe we have a group of clients that have been entered in the system but have never been placed in a program. Maybe they're in a program but there's no services. Maybe they've had a services but there's no diagnosis been rendered. Maybe they're getting services but they don't have a payer listed in the system. Those are huge. Clients that haven't been seen in 90 days, that's a big one for people. The no payer and the 90 days, or whatever your cutoff point is. Some programs that may only be 30 days. I'm going to start out by just simply, we're going to start out with just a list of our clients. I'm not going to show any client names or IDs. I'm just going to show client keys, so that those are not, because they're not they're not part of the PHI. The client keys change every night, so they're not PHI, so we don't have to worry about that. So generally, when we start out in SQL, we're going to start with a select statement, and that is we're going to select data from the database. And in this case, I'm just going to get, that is the client key. If you're on a profiler system, that's going to be FK or PK. Actually, it would be the PK client if you're in the client dimension. And so we can go down here now, and we have to tell the system, where do we want to get this data from? And we're going to get it from the client dimension. And if I click on, well, I guess I need to be using the right schema. So I'm on a credible system. There's just a CDW for and it gives us a list of all the clients in our system. Well, that's not active clients. So we're going to work on that here in just a minute. So let's begin. First of all, I'd like to get these in a particular order. I would like to see these, ordered by that client key. Now, of course, if you're doing this for yourself, on your own reports, you're going to be getting a client ID and the client full name and bringing that in. In this case, I'm only bringing in the client key just to show you, and I'll just add this here on the other side so you can. Just to remind us. And if we rerun that, there we go. So I've just put in some text there, but that's where you would have the client ID and the client name. As I said, we'd like to order it. Well, we do that by using a simple clause, just order by. And we're just going to tell it by the client key. And you have to spell client correctly. And we click execute. It'll take a little bit longer because it has to sort them all out. That's essentially what an order by clause is it's sorting the data. And so right now we're sorting those client IDs out, or client keys out. And there we go. So as you can see, we have all of the keys in the right order now. So we're on a good start. Now, if I were writing a QA report, I could do this order by the client last name, first name. I could do it by the client ID. I can put anything I want to in there. And just a moment here, I'm just filtering this data out. And this is always a good thing to know. So in this case, I just want to see my tables for the data warehouse. And those, if you're on a profiler or avatar system, it's just the DW schema. If you're on a credible system, it's the CDW schema. And I just click the flag. I could also put in, for example, if I wanted to filter for just tables that have the name client in them, I can click on that and click OK. All right, so I just wanted to look at that at the client dimension and see what fields I have available here. And we're going to introduce something new that you may or may not use now. It's a very slick way to get data from the outside and bring it in order to do these types of queries. So in this case, I'm going to define an active client as somebody who has an existing program. Okay, so they have an open program in our system. And so we could do this a lot of different ways, but if we want to ensure that they have the program, we're going to join it to the client program. And we'll do that by going right here. We'll bring in the client program dimension. Now, one of the tricks that you can learn that makes life a lot easier on you is that you can alias your tables so that you don't have to type it all out up above. If you're using more than one table, we need to specify which table it's coming from. So in this case, I'm just going to give it an alias. You can say as CD. So client dimension is now CD. I'm going to, if I want to find only clients that have an open episode, an open program, I'm going to do an inner join, which means that the client has to exist in both tables, both in the client dimension and in the client program dimension. So we're going to call this client program dimension. And I'm going to call this just PGM for program, so I know what that is. Now I can come up here and let's do a little bit of cleanup, shall we? So this is coming from the client dimension. This is coming from the client dimension. This is just some nonsense we've added, but let's add a program here now. And we do that by going to PGM and dot and Shift R. I believe it's just program. Go select. Oh, I didn't join it. I apologize. We need to now tell it which fields we're going to connect the two tables on. So we're going to go CD dot client key equals PGM dot client key. Now that links our tables together through that. And if we, I'm going to get rid of this order by for the time being because it's been, the system is slowing down with it on there. So which one am I looking for? Okay, so I want the client program description is the name of it in this system. In Profiler, it's going to be called the location cost center in the cost center location, in the cost center dimension, and in Avatar, it will be in the episode dimension, and it's called the program value. So just if you're interested in those. Oh, it's called client program. And so now we have clients that have an open program. All right. This would be active clients if we say that the admission date was prior to today and the discharge date is greater than today. If we do that, then we'll know. So let's do that. Let's filter this out, and we can bring in the program admission date. Discharge date. There we go. So we've got our client program, and if you see here, you can look in the data warehouse. We always add these default values so that we don't wind up with nulls. But we have some programs here that are not open at this time. These programs are currently discharged, so that would be a client that's not open. So how do we do that? I'm going to go down here and create a where clause, and that's just a filter for us. And I do a little trick. You don't have to do it, but I always put where 1 equals 1, and that just lets me now put in, for everything down below, I start it with the word and. And the client program admission date is less than or equal to get date, and the client program discharge date is greater than get date. And if we run it now, we'll be getting a list of those clients that are actually open at this time. And so this is just a real simple, this now gives us all of our clients that are currently active. I've got just the top 100 set, but we could set that for whatever. Now we can take this and create a table out of it so that we can access this at any time by simply adding one little feature here. We're going to say into, and we just need to give it a name. So we're going to say CDW dot, and in this case, I'm going to give it datamart underscore active clients. And I put that DM there just so I know it's not really created by the data warehouse, it's built by something else. And if I run that, oh, okay. It just wants a name after that. If we create a table, everyone has to have a name. All right, now, so we have 100 rows, and if we go back up here to our data warehouse and we refresh it, it's going to take a little bit. I'm going to talk about something else here for just a second. But if we want to run this on a regular basis, we now have to add one more piece to this, because if we try to run this again, it's going to say that this table already exists, and it's going to error out on us. So we add a little snippet of code, and it looks like this. We just come down here and grab this guy. All right, so now it's going to say, before it starts doing anything else, it says, if this table already exists, then drop it. It's not null. So it goes to the system catalog and it looks for a table name with that name. And if it says that table name does exist, it's not null in that table, then drop the table, and then we come down here and we rebuild it, okay? And so that's all that has to be done to do that. And if we come back over here and we scroll down, there's our data mart of active clients. And we're just going to select that back out and so you can see what that looks like. And there we go. So now that table can be accessed by any number of reports that you might want to build. And again, these things will work. You know, this idea of creating a data mart for a particular report, that's a great way to do things. You know, and we'll talk about putting these into stored procedures that can be run automatically and things like that down the road. But this gets you started. This will get you a good starting point for that. Now, let's move on a little bit, because this is a client list, but it's not really a QA report, and that's really what I wanted to concentrate on today, was QA reports. So I'm going to do a new query, and I'm going to build one out. And in this case, what I want to do is find the clients that are in that list that have never received a service. So we're going to use something to start this process out. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to use this same little table right here in this same setup, but we're going to add something to it. So in this case, we're looking for clients that are in this set. They're active clients, but they have never received, you know what might be better? Let's do where they have no payer, all right? That would be a better one. Just because it's going to be a smaller table, it won't take so long to run. So what we're talking about are finding negatives, all right? In other words, we're looking for clients where something doesn't exist. The way we do that, the best practices, rather than coming down here and joining to the client payer table and then looking for where those are null, that can give us all kinds of false readings, because the client may have a self-pay record, they may have a record that's no longer active. You know, there could be any number of reasons. So the first thing we have to do is find all the clients that have an active payer at this time. And so we're going to do that using a SQL build out that's called a common table expression. And the easiest way to think of these is it's just a temporary table that lives in memory. So the way we get this the CTE in here is we just simply type the word with. We need an open and close paren for this, and we're going to give it we only want to return one value, and that's the client key. So we have to tell it that we're going to be looking for the client key. All right. And down here, CTE. CTE comes up here, and then so we've told it, build us a table called CTE, and this could be anything you want it to be. And all we want delivered back is the client key, and then we put another set of parens in here, an open and a close. And in this case, we're going to add another select set. So select client key from, and that is in this system, the client insurance dimension. And let me just check to make sure that's working. Yeah, that's it. Good. Okay. And so that delivered that information back. And you see what I did there? I just highlighted the port. And this is something that's good to know. You can execute any piece of a SQL statement by just simply highlighting it. So for example, if I wanted to drop our active clients table, I can just come over here, click execute, and it just dropped that table. So that's just another little tip or trick that you could use. But in this case, we're doing this for a particular reason. We're looking for clients that have no insurance program or have no insurance right now. So the way we're doing it is we're going to get a list of everybody that has a valid insurance on today's date. And so if we go to the client insurance dimension, open that up so we can get the fields that we need. We're going to give this a where clause, and I still do my 1 equals 1, and I'll show you why I do that in just a moment. I'm going to give that an alias as well, CID, and then we can reference that down here. So CID dot, that is called client. And, whoops, put that in the wrong spot. Cut that out. Down here at our and, where client insurance start date is less than or equal to today, and that's done by just using this get date. That gives us today's date. And CID dot client insurance end date is greater than get date. So that means that the service, or that the payer is active today. And so what this does is it kind of creates for us a little just a little temporary table that stores the client key if the client key is valid. Now, how is that going to help us? It's going to help us because down below now we can reference that table and say here that our client key, which is in the client dimension, we need to first of all join that CTE on here. And so we're going to give this a left join. CDW, whoops. CTE on CD dot client key equals CTE dot client key. And down below, we're now going to say, actually, we don't even need to join that. We can remove that because we're just going to do a sub-select down here. We're going to say and CD dot client key. So now we're looking at the client key is not in, and we do another select statement, client key from CTE. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to highlight that, get rid of it. Now the reason I do this is at any point I can remove one of these statements by just doing that. I just put a couple of dashes, and so if I want to test things, I can always just come in and do that. If I don't have the and in front of it, then it'll mess up everything down below. So that's why I just put that 1 equals 1. It has no effect on the system at all. The system just ignores that, and it's just a means of me, cleaning that data out. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go back through it. Okay, so we're not going to worry about our table right now because we're not going to build it. We're just going to bring the data out. Here's our CTE. This is locating everybody that has a valid payer in the system. Then we're going to select our client information along with their program because we want to make sure that they were active clients. We're looking for active clients that have no payer. And then we come down here and this checks our program admission dates to make sure the client has an active payer. And this tells us that the client is not in that list up above. Okay? So let's just go ahead and fire that off. Whoops. And I knew that. We should have put that guy right there. We always start a CTE with a semicolon. And we'll just let that guy run. So it'll build out that first set. It just builds a list of all of the idea of all of those client keys that are existing there in that list, and then it goes down and it then runs this and it compares those dates to make sure we get only active clients who have no payer. And there we go. So this is a list of clients in our system right now that have no active payer. And again, I limited that down to just 100 clients. But that's what's involved. That's all there is to it. It may seem a little bit complex, but just build it out like we did here, one step at a time. Just build your your query to find your clients first, and then you can go in and set it to right to a data mart, which we can go back and remove that. And I'm just going to remove those dashes by highlighting those. And if I come up here, and that lets me uncomment those lines out, now if I run the process again, it will build it into a table. Well, Ginger, that wraps up what I was going to cover today. If you have anything you'd like to add, or Sean, if there's anything you'd like to add, please do.
Finding kind of these QA reports, these QA situations are a little counterintuitive, but you presented it very clearly, and I thought it was great. And it is a special domain of SQL programming that is very important to understand.
So thank you, everybody. Well, with that, we'll let you guys go, and hope you have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.